So my name is Andrew Lindo. I'm a graphic designer and the creator of the Black History Activity Books, which is a range of children's educational books. So it's to inspire and educate young people in a fun and exciting way, using a series of activities. What initiated me to start this business was I felt there was a genuine need for having products like this in the home and in the school, because we hear a lot of people say there's not enough Black history in schools. Recently, because of what's happened, it seems like there's more of a demand for it. But I think there is a genuine need for having our history and some of our inspirational people in our history taught in schools and at home. So I've done 2 Black Pound Day markets. They've been excellent, to be fair. They've been both really good. The response has been really good. The good thing about the event for me is it's not overly busy, but you have a constant flow of people that come to inquire or buy, which is good, because sometimes it can get overwhelming if it's too busy, because you can't deal with everyone at one time. And the turnout's been really good. They've been really steady. It's been a really good crowd, so it's been a pleasure and an honour to be a part of it. So my products were designed aimed at children specifically, but older people can use them because the activities are fun and it's exercising your brain. So there's like little quizzes, there's activities, there's mazes, there's problem solving techniques that you can use. So ideally, children between 6 to 13 would be the ideal age, but then you could have adults use it. I've had teenagers use them, and then I think they'd be really good for dementia sufferers as well, because it allows them to kind of recap over some things in history and then to use their brain in different ways. So I started the books 3 years ago. I started them in 2017, the back end of 2017. So they've been going up and down like any business. So you have areas where they're really busy and it's really good, and then you have periods where people are not interested. Due to the recent events that have happened this year, there was like a larger influx in like people being interested and buying the books, which is really good. It's a shame it came off the back of something negative, but it had been really good. And then my aims for the books really is to have series, because I've got 2 series at the moment that focused on post-slavery. So it's like the people that we're familiar to in terms of like your Martin Luther King, your Malcolm X's and Marcus Garvey, but my aim is to go pre-slavery. So we talk about like people like Mansa Musa, we talk about Imhotep, we talk about Hatshepsut, other people like that. So it's about introducing greater people and civilization builders, because a lot of the people that are focused on now, they're like freedom fighters and activists, and there's a few inventors and stuff like that. But pre-slavery, we can talk about our contributions to civilization, to science, to mathematics, astronomy. So I think sometimes it's easy for people to gravitate to things that they recognise. So I did books like on Nelson Mandela, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. But then in the series I had people like Danny the Maroons, Marcus Garvey. But some people are not that familiar with them. They've heard the names, but they're not really totally familiar with the individual and what they've done. The reason why I did that was I think it's a little bit more easier for some people that are not into their history to kind of accept certain faces, and it's kind of a way to draw them in, and then you can kind of introduce them to characters that they've never heard of, that have done a lot more fascinating things. Sometimes we're scared of the unknown, and same for other cultures as well. When they see people that like Huey P. Newton, for example, and Malcolm X, they may seem as being too radical. So I think you kind of have to have that balance, and people gravitate to what they're comfortable with. I think it's important to highlight some of the lessons from the books and the individuals, because essentially we go through the same things. We do face racism. It may not be as overt as it was in the past, but it's definitely there because it's institutionalized. So even some of the things in lack of representation in certain areas, it's good for young people to see a representation of themselves, people that look like themselves, that have achieved great things. And even though things were in the past, there's lessons that we can take from those things that have happened and those individuals. So it's like using the concept of the Sankofa. in order to look back to go forward. So we look back at lessons and see like how we can benefit ourselves and empower ourselves from what they've done to move forward today. And I feel like sometimes we end up in a circle of going around and repeating the same things because we haven't learned the lesson, or we're not doing what we need to move on. So I think it's highly important for us to look back to go forward. I had a cleaning job. My first job was a cleaning job, and I was really good at it. So I used to clean really well. The people was really impressed with what I used to do. And I didn't mind working. I didn't mind doing a cleaning job. The only thing is, I used to see people in the establishment that was getting paid more than I was, doing less work. And I was thinking, that's mad. I might as well do something that's easier, because I don't mind working. That's easier and I get paid more. So I went to the careers advice place that was on Broad Street back in the day, which I think it's the Uber Centre now. So anyway, went there and asked them, I said, I'm good at art, what can I do? And they said graphic design. I'd never really heard of graphic design or knew what it was. So I went to study graphic design. And then while I was at uni doing a course on graphic design, I created a magazine, because I didn't really used to read as a child, because there wasn't things that I could relate to. And back then in the media, some of the black celebrities were people that was hard to relate to, such as Chris Eubank and Frank Bruno and stuff like that. Coming from the inner city in Birmingham, it's hard to relate to certain people. So even though they're black, like, it's hard to kind of identify to them and what they're like. And I read an article on one of my friends who was a footballer. I found it so inspiring and so inspirational. And I thought, right, I read the whole thing and remembered everything. And I was like, I wonder if other people would read if it was on people that they found interesting. So I decided to do a magazine which would highlight some of the inspirational people from the inner city that people could relate to, because they'd be like, I know that face, I know that person, this is what they do. And if they can do it, then I can. I ended up doing about 5 or 6 different magazines as the time went on. And then while doing it, I realised that, like, I'm probably hitting people at the wrong age, because it was aimed at, like, teenagers and young adults. And I feel like at that age, people are starting to find themselves, they're starting to go out, meet girls and stuff like that. And the things that I was teaching in the books in terms of, like, positive role models, black history, health, fitness, personal development, it's that age where a lot of people are not really that interested. So what I decided to do was to aim it at younger people, at that age where the minds are like sponges, where children like to soak up information and they're hungry for information. And I think where it's more important that they see representation of themselves, strong, positive role black models that they can relate to. And I always had in my mind that I wanted to create the books. And I think I've been thinking about it for about 10 years. And then due to, like, personal circumstances, I wasn't able to do the magazine, do the activity books. And then come 2017, I was in the right place, right time. I started on the 23rd of October, and by the 6th of December, I designed, created and printed 10 books, and then I just started promoting, and that was it. That was the start. The research comes through reading and watching documentaries. So I read a lot of books, watch a lot of documentaries, and then put together the information. The information's not really too deep. It is for people to, it's introducing people into figures, and not just knowing the name, but some of the things that they've done in history and things that they can benefit from. So on every page, what you'll find is there's a small passage, a little bit of information, and then an activity to go with it. So for example, like, it will just talk, like, it'll have, like, just a small paragraph, and then the activity itself would kind of just, like, reinforce what they're learning in a fun way to kind of, like, keep it stuck in their brain. I don't think that Americans are more conscious than we are. I just think in sheer numbers, there's just a lot more of them. But then relating it to over here, I feel like we're a lot more conscious here. There's just not as much of us in the UK. And we discredit ourselves because we're always comparing ourselves to things that we don't really know. So we look at Americans and think they're conscious and they're this and that. But when in actual facts, we are very conscious, and we've been influenced because of the Rasta movement. we've been influenced a lot by conscious people, and we don't realise that how it's cultivated us as individuals. And sometimes, because we don't get to see it, we take it for granted. So going back the second time to sell the books, it just was a lot harder. I got to see people weren't really interested. They weren't interested in the books as much as I thought originally. And then it was hard. And then I went back again for a third time, and then I saw that pattern of peaks and troughs where it was really good, and then people were really interested. I did a street festival, and I think on the day, I sold just under 400 books, but it was just mad. But there was thousands. I think there was like 2 million people there. It was in Philadelphia. It's an event called a Dunday, and then that was my pattern of going out in the summer, vending on the street, doing events, and then coming back here for the winter and doing like our events and stuff like that, which I did my first book launch, which was in 2018, and that was just to kind of like introduce people to my books, but to do like a community event similar to the Black Pound Day, but with like, my main aim was like to coax people into learning about their history. So we had Robin Walker doing a free talk, we had other inspirational people there, and basically I didn't want to charge. I wanted people to come, and if they wanted to sit down and listen to a lecture, they were free to. If they didn't and they wanted to go shop, they could. So I tried to have something for everyone, and that way, just people being around that energy of people learning and having certain positive people there, maybe it would rub off onto them and kind of like influence them. And that's what I did with the book launch. So from out of my books, I would say I probably relate most to Marcus Garvey, in terms of like, it was the first book that I produced. I do follow a lot of the principles of Marcus Garvey. I definitely believe in self-reliance and doing for self, and educating others and giving people a platform. And sometimes it isn't a bed of roses. And that's why when I look at the struggles that Marcus Garvey went through, it's easy to relate to, because I see the struggles that I go through in order to get things done. And at doing the event before, it was like I feel like a lot of bandwagonists have jumped onto like Black history because of certain events that have happened recently. And like, it's for the people that was doing it before all of this happened, because they do it for a passion, not just because it's trending. So I definitely would say I relate more to Marcus Garvey. God willing, in 10 years, I'll see the books introduced a lot more into mainstream education. Like, a lot of households know about the books, to do a regular event to inspire and educate young people and to showcase some of the talent that we have in our country. So hopefully more of a household name. And just to inspire and spark the minds of young people to go on and do great things for our community. So in the range, I have 2 series of books, both that have 10 books in per series, and then I have 2 books that stand alone, which is Elijah McCoy and Queen Diambi. Then I have a colouring book, I have stationery sets, I have clothing, I have merchandise like mugs, money boxes, key rings, laptop cases. There's quite a few things, to be fair. I feel like it's just important that young people see images of themselves that they can relate to, and they have that representation. So that's why I try to have as much products as possible around the books. And that way, sometimes we go to events and we see people that love the books, want to support, but they don't have any children and no one to buy the books for. So by having like T-shirts and mugs and stuff like that, it allows them to support and get something that they can utilise. So if anyone wanted to purchase any of my products, they could go over to my website, which is www.blackhistoryaactivitybooks.com. You can find me on all socials, on Instagram, which is Black History Activity Books, on Facebook it's Newborn Designs, and then on YouTube we've got a YouTube page that you can see some of our events and some of our works that we've done, and that's at Black History Activity Book TV. And I think that's all of the socials I'm on, to be fair. So I think that if I was to sum up the Black History Activity Books in one sentence, they would be educational, inspiring, and a must for development for all children. I think it just gives them the firm foundations and building blocks they need to succeed in life.